All right, I'm here back at the desk, and I want to study the lowercase e today. So I want to go through kind of how I look at the form and how I relate it to the mechanics needed to make that form, and just do a few warm-ups that I would do before working on this letter, and then discuss kind of some common problem points that you might have with this letter and some drills you can work on to eliminate those problems. So let's start with the form. I've drawn a lowercase e here based off an exemplar I have of business penmanship, and I've drawn it at a height of 1/2 inch. So nice and big, so I can really see all the features of the letter clearly. And I'll just go through the letter progressively and point out the different things that I'm seeing with it. So first it starts with this entry stroke, and you can see the entry stroke right here. I'll note that I have a connective slant of 29 degrees, which is relatively standard. 30 degrees was kind of the one you see a lot in the business penmanship books. I do 29 for reasons I won't get into right now. And then we have another slant here, which is 52 degrees, which is our main slant. So we have our two slant lines, and when you see the entry stroke, it just kind of curves around this connective slant. So you can see it starts right at the baseline at the connective slant line, goes away from it, and then comes back to it. And right when it gets to the top of this X height is we're getting to this 52 degree slant with our motion. So if I kept going up and went straight up from there, it'd be straight on a 52 degree angle, ideally. Mechanically, with the arm here, we have a lot of forearm hinge movement in this beginning part of this stroke as we make this shallow curve to the right, and then as we get to the top, it's a lot of upper arm kind of shoulder movement propelling the pen upwards towards the top. And then we get this curve. This curve requires a little bit of, see this action I'm making here, elbow hinge, forearm hinge movement from the right to the left. And then once we get around the curve at the top, we're pulling it relatively straight down. There is some curve here you can see in the back of this E, which is a very practical form, as opposed to a straight back E, which you see in more traditional Spencerian exemplars. As we come down, a lot of upper arm movement pulling the pen down, and then as it transitions to this exit stroke, we're kind of transitioning back to forearm movement to make the same identical movement we made at the beginning, and then it exits with upper arm movement at the top. So that's how I would break down the form of the letter and how it relates to the mechanics of the arm. You can see it's this beautiful transition between forearm movement, upper arm movement at various points in the letter, which makes it a complicated letter. It's not like an I, which goes up, stops, comes down, and goes out. Much simpler letter. The E is very similar to the I, except it adds this complicating factor of the loop. So let's get into some basic warm-ups I would do. Nothing fancy here. These are just general things you would do to just kind of start loosening up your muscles and getting your hand moving in the directions that it needs to. So the first one is just a basic direct oval, so counterclockwise oval. That kind of gets your hand moving in the direction of this E. And then the other one I would do would just be a simple push-pull. So a push-pull is obviously kind of the general movement you make when you're coming down the backside of that E, when you're making the downstroke. And then you might also want to do a combination of these. So I would do the oval first, and then transition to the downstroke, to the push-pull. And this obviously is, maybe not obviously, but at the top when you're making this transition, that's kind of mimicking the movement at the top of the E when you're going from this curve and then to a downstroke to finish the letter. So really just feel that and just see how it feels. See how that transition feels while you're warming up. Simple stuff there. Another warm-up I would do, which I think also helps with that transition stroke, with the looping stroke at the top, would be to do some just horizontal kind of moves like this. So this is basically a very big version of what we're doing at the top of the E. So this E is this move from right to left, where we're kind of, it's forearm hinge movement, but it's also upper arm movement to go up. The upper arm movement drives you up in the stroke, and the forearm movement drives you from left to right. Maybe make it go smaller and smaller. Might be a good way to warm up. Just kind of feel the big strokes and then get smaller and smaller. Might even do it up here. Kind of just feel that move to finish that letter. So those are some basic warm-ups. I think once you do that, you're ready to start making letters and start critiquing what your particular problems might be with the letter. So I'll just show you some of the problems that I've had with the letter and that you might be likely to have as well. I'll move down here. Well, I'll stay up here. This is fine. The first one would be with the entry stroke. The common thing that I've had a problem with is just making the entry strokes too long. Making them longer makes the letter easier to make because you have more time to kind of get ready for this loop at the top. Whereas suppose if you make it proper, everything, it kind of compresses the time, the overall time span of the letter into a shorter time window, and that makes it a more difficult letter to execute. So I think a good, just a little drill to work on having the proper length of your opening stroke is to just do some retraces of this entry stroke. And then just go into the downstroke. So this just lets you feel what it's like. And then really a great place to, to go with this drill is to go smaller and smaller, which means your entry strokes get shorter and shorter, making it more difficult. And you can even finish the letter here too. I would advise that. Just really want to feel that smooth action, no jerkiness, not gripping the pen, not tensing up your muscles, just kind of letting the pen, the weight of the pen kind of just pull you around. So that's one retrace drill you can do. The next part of the letter that you might be having problems with is this loop at the top. Might be having just kind of what I would call a weak loop. And that could either be weak in a sense of being too jagged, like this. Maybe you're having a kind of a stopping motion there. Or maybe too bulbous, like that, which also leads to another problem that we'll talk about in a second. So overall, with a weak loop, a good thing to do here is to work on this drill that I was doing up here. So kind of taking that warm-up drill and just retracing up here and just feeling that motion up at the top. Another problem you might have with the loop is a closed loop, or one that's very, very tight and you can't really see the space within the loop. And the same thing with this drill, I think, is helpful. It helps you really widen it out. Maybe exaggerate the width of the loop a little bit. Just gives you a little more time up there at the top. You do a few retraces, you can kind of really feel the movement and then finish the letter. nice way to train it. The next problem you might have is with the downstroke, and then also the subsequent exit stroke or exit turn, the final turn in the letter. So a problem you might have with the downstroke, which I kind of just mentioned, is just too loopy like that. We don't want it to be that loopy. We want to have a nice, we still want to have, while this is a curved back E, we still want to have a relatively sharp angle at the end here. So if your downstroke gets too curved, it messes up your exit turn and just screws everything up. So another retrace drill is great for this. So once you get to the top, you can just retrace the back of the letter and then exit. Again, work this smaller and smaller till you're getting to a more realistic X height. So I'm still doing this relatively big, but I want to because it's on camera. But this is 1/4 of an inch, which is a really big X height. I really want to get this down to 1/8 of an inch, and eventually 1/16 of an inch. And a nice thing with all of these retrace drills, I should have mentioned, is that you can do one retraced, so whether it's the entry stroke, and then do a letter after that, or the downstroke. That's really a great way to feel it doing the retrace, and then do a letter right after that, and feel it just doing a letter one off. So with any of these retrace drills, do one retraced, and then maybe do a line of them without. So you could even do one retrace, and then go into a few looped ones connected. Another problem you might have with this letter would be the poor ending, what I would call that. And that could just be an ending stroke. Obviously this only matters when the letter is the last letter in a word. But just having an ending stroke that's either too vertical or too horizontal, or any kind of just jerkiness, just like an unclean line. Like you want to finish all your letters and words with just nice clean lines that, if you want to be real textbook, they're ending at the X height like that. But you don't want a thick stroke at the top or anything that shows that your pen was like moving around or jerking at the very end of that stroke. And a simple thing you can try to help with that ending is just to do a full loop around the letter when you end it. So just to kind of give you that extra move at the end and to keep that motion going. And then you can lift the pen up, as you can see I did on those last three. Instead of doing the loop, I lifted the pen up but continued the motion around. And that's a great thing. You can apply that to so many different letters. Just having this exit motion where you just lift the pen but continue it. That's really critical and a great way to practice things. The last little thing with this letter that might cause you problems is that it becomes a very difficult letter when you are connecting from the top. And by that I mean, let's say you have the word like vex. So you do your V. I could finish it. You have this connection from the top, from the V to the E. And that obviously causes the problem of making it a little harder to make that loop at the top. It's very easy to have a closed loop like that when you do that. And basically you can practice any of these drills coming from the top as well. So you could do a retrace drill like this. But I think it's really just a matter of practicing coming from the top. And I think that's also a great way to practice having that nice open loop. Because when you're coming from the top, you really have to emphasize coming to the right and around. So if you're having problems with closed loops like this, where they look like eyes, if you come from the top, you really feel the horizontal movement and then the move up to bring it around and really create space in that loop. So that was all I had planned here today. I think I'm going to cut it off there. E is a difficult letter. Don't get frustrated if it's causing you problems. Hopefully this helps and gives you some ideas on how you can work out some of those issues. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. I appreciate that. Helps the video get seen. If you're not subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe and get notifications when I post new videos. I'm going to be going through more of the lowercase, well, all of the lowercase alphabet eventually. I did the I family video. That was the previous video to this, which covered I, U, and W. E was a standalone letter, but I'm going to probably get back to more families of letters after this, and we're going to get through the whole alphabet, so in good time. So thanks for watching, and check out perfectbiscuits.com too. All my links to social media and how you can contact me is on there. So thank you so much.